Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. This is episode 4 of Petty Please. Let's get right on into the pettiness. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. After years of receiving Goodwill junk from my wealthy sister-in-law who never says thank you, I finally found the perfect revenge gift for my nephew that drove the whole family crazy. I think I just won the passive-aggressive gift-giving Olympics, and I need to share this victory with you all. The background. My sister-in-law lives the high life. She's a paralegal sitting on a fat trust fund, while my brother-in-law proudly brags about scamming his military disability benefits to pay for their mortgage. They're rolling in money. We're talking 8 cars, including a Land Rover, Porsche, and Tesla, and living in prime Seattle real estate. Every holiday, my sister-in-law struts around with her latest designer bags from LV, Dior, and YSL. My gift-giving philosophy. I pour my heart into holiday gifts, starting my shopping in August. I'm talking Anthropologie advent calendars, Nordstrom purses, and luxury beauty products for the ladies, plus cozy knits and golf gear for the guys. I always have a theme. This year was travel, and I follow one rule. If I wouldn't love receiving it myself, I don't give it. The thank you note saga. For 5 years, since her baby shower, I haven't received a single thank you note. I even started gifting her thank you card sets with stamps. Subtle, right? She never got the hint. Meanwhile, their kid gets showered with FAO Schwartz toys, handcrafted wooden pieces, and Lego sets from us. Still no thanks. What we get in return. Literal garbage. I'm not exaggerating. They give us Goodwill rejects. Puzzles with missing pieces, and junky Disney knickknacks. Remember, these are people who own multiple luxury cars and designer bags. The sweet revenge. Enter their spoiled nephew, my perfect accomplice. Each year, my mission became clear. Find the loudest, most obnoxious yet irresistibly cool toy possible. This summer, I struck gold at an outdoor market. Pop guns that made the most incredible rackets. The payoff. We skipped Seattle this year, best decision ever, but got the full report from Grandma, mother-in-law. The pop gun was such a hit, it became an issue. My nephew was so obsessed he wouldn't put it down. My sister-in-law's parents couldn't stand being in the same room and left after 15 minutes because of the noise. It was the only toy he cared about. I couldn't stop laughing when I heard this. Mission beautifully accomplished. I love it. Like you didn't hurt anybody. You made that kid incredibly happy. And you made who is she? Your sister-in-law. And you made your spoiled sister-in-law suffer and everyone else suffer. And I'm here for it. Well done. All right, story number 2 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Overcharged me at the nail salon and led to chaos. I got my nails done this morning at the same nail salon I've been patronizing for almost 2 years. It has 1,000 plus great reviews online, and they've always done amazing work. They don't post their prices anywhere, but I've always paid $40 to $50. However, it hasn't been consistent, as in sometimes I would be asked to pay $50 and other times later $40. When I asked about the price, usually when it was $50, they would say I got a nice discount at $40 and standard was $50. The $10 never bothered me, so I never made a fuss about it, and kinda chalked it up to more inexperienced front desk workers not tracking well to the established price. But I also have gotten into the habit of asking the price before they start, but forgot to ask this morning because I was just getting my normal nails. Today, I finished up my appointment and the front desk told me it was $70. I was surprised because I got them done last month and I'm pretty sure it was only $40. The lady said prices went up, which I felt should have been stated somewhere, but I know that businesses are nervous about the economy, so understand a hike. I paid my bill and internally decided to find a new salon. Not because they did anything wrong, but paying $70 for nails isn't worth it for me, while there are cheaper places around, given the quality will almost definitely decrease. After I paid, I realized I left something at my seat. I had been quietly chatting with the lady sitting next to me during our appointment, and we were getting the exact same service in different colors. As I went to grab my bag, I couldn't help making a quiet comment to her that $70 for our nails is crazy. Yes, this was a complaint, but also wanted to warn her about what to expect. She immediately got agitated and asked her nail tech how it could be this much, because she had never paid more than $30 for the service. She looked like she was going to cry and said she didn't have $70 for the service today. Her nail tech quickly tried to do damage control and said that since she was such a loyal customer, her price would be $30. This didn't really calm her down though. She asked how long I'd been going there, and I said 2 years, and she said she'd been coming for less than a year. At this point, other customers at the busy salon started paying attention to what was going on, and a few 7 to 8 other people started sharing what they paid for their nails, and it ranged from $30 to $70. At that point, I had my bag and no reason to stay, but as I left, almost the whole salon was getting heated with everyone realizing that they actually don't have a set price for their services and just charge as much as they can get out of you. I will definitely be leaving a review, and something tells me that the others there will as well. Ooh, that's just bad business right there. I know you put it in petty revenge, but I don't think doing your review is petty at all. That's fair. I would be like this lady you were talking to. I would be horrified to find out that I was paying more than double, that I was going to have to pay more than double what I was used to paying and what I expected to pay. That is something that gets me at a lot of nail salons, that they don't have their prices posted anywhere. And that's honestly part of why I don't get my nails done ever, because I can't stand going in and getting a service without knowing roughly what it's going to cost me. The last time I went and got a pedicure, I went with a friend, so I didn't care what the cost was, but in my head I had a rough number of what a pedicure should cost, just for a scrub, foot soak, and gel polish. And there wasn't a board anywhere with prices. No one told you anything about prices. You didn't find out the price until you were already in the seat with your feet sitting in water, and they give you a menu to pick what level of service and what scent you want for the foot soak and everything, and the moisturizer. And that's where the prices finally were. And at that point, you're too far in to turn around. I guess some people might, but I was too far in to turn around. So I showed the friend, and we were both silently shocked to see what we were going to pay for our nails that day. But we just both chose whatever scent we wanted in the cheapest possible package. And that was it. Yeah, it definitely makes the experience less enjoyable when you get that sticker shock. Okay, story number 3 is coming to us from r/pro revenge. Coworker tried to get me fired over breast implants, so I pulled a reverse Uno card. 4 years ago now, when I was 24, my mom died of breast cancer, and as both my grandmothers had also died of it, I saw a specialist for a screening. I found out I had some cells in one of my breasts that could have turned cancerous at any given moment. I was told I had a few options. One, I could have regular screenings every 3 or 4 months until it does develop into cancer. I was told the risk of the cells becoming cancerous was very high due to family history. But it could also potentially never turn, so I'd just be getting these screenings for no reason. 2, I could get a single mastectomy of the breast with the bad cells, but they'd need to keep an eye on the other one, so I'd still need regular checkups for the other breast. 3, I could get a bilateral mastectomy and remove all of my breast tissue, basically eliminating the risk. I went for the bilateral mastectomy. It was admittedly the most drastic option, but after seeing what cancer did to my mom and grandmothers, I didn't want to risk it. I was warned about scarring, but told it should be fairly minor. It wasn't, and I was left with 2 huge pink jagged scars on either side of my chest, each about 1 inch long and 1/2 inch wide. And it caused me to go into a severe depression, where it got to the stage of me not even leaving my flat because I didn't want people to see me, throwing out my mirrors and getting physically sick looking at myself. I went to a therapist who suggested a plastic surgeon. The therapist said they never normally do that, but it was clearly something I was struggling with and I might never get over it. And the therapist could see why I struggle with it. Although I'll admit the therapist did send me to ask about scar reduction, the plastic surgeon suggested a cream, a laser, or implants. The cream didn't work, and the laser was both expensive and risky, so I went with the implants. My natural boobs were an F cup, so I went with a slightly smaller double D. Since then, my mental health has improved, and I feel a lot better about the way I look. My confidence has gone up, as has my self-esteem. I know I shouldn't put so much into my appearance, but I wasn't exaggerating about these scars. Huge, bright pink, jagged, raised, just really awful to look at. And I hated seeing myself, and they are now nicely hidden away and you can barely feel them. In the present day, I'm 28 years old and working in an office. I'm doing a lot better than I was. My coworker Jill found out I'd had a boob job, but not about the cancer thing. When myself and my friend from years before the mastectomy were planning a holiday and she made a joke about me going on a plane with my implants, and Jill overheard. By the end of the day, the entire office knew I'd had a boob job, but not why, and half a dozen people confirmed Jill had told them. Over the next few months, Jill made many jokes and comments about my chest to coworkers when I was in earshot, at one point saying I had more plastic than Barbie, and calling me fake in 2 ways. I didn't hear this one myself, but a friend in the office told me that Jill had at one point referred to me as a sack of silicone. I don't know what her problem was exactly, but at one point she mentioned the NHS, so I assumed Jill thought that I'd got my tits done for free on taxpayer money. I'd gotten the mastectomy on NHS, but gone private for therapy and implants. I asked her to stop more than once, but unfortunately the places I talked to her were places like the lift and the women's bathroom, where there weren't any cameras, and Jill just kept making the comments no matter how often I asked her not to. I wouldn't say it was every single day, but I heard at least 3 comments per week for 3 months. I hit my breaking point when me, Jill, and a few other coworkers were having lunch. I referred to something as being shallow, and Jill said, "You know all about being shallow," while gesturing to my chest. I snapped. I said, "Do you know why I have these?" A few years ago, the doctors found potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I was advised to get a mastectomy and was left with huge, ugly scars on my chest. I went to see a therapist who sent me to a cosmetic surgeon who advised me to get implants to hide the scars. And I did just so I could look at myself in the mirror without crying. So maybe next time you want to judge someone for having cosmetic surgery, you should ask them why they had it first. And feeling like that was a mic drop moment, I picked up my food and left. For the rest of the day, I had about 1/3 of my office come up to me and offer support, and the rest tell me that Jill was just joking around and I was being a bitch. I replied that Jill was being a bitch long before I was. I then got an email from HR saying they wanted to talk to me the following day, and when I called for clarification, they mentioned a hostile work environment. Note, this was apparently an American term and holds little weight in England, but it's what was said over the phone. I knew the person who signed off the email and I'd spoken to. Her name was Debbie, and she was Jill's friend in HR, so I was fairly confident on who had reported me. I realized that if this was already being sent to HR, I needed as much ammunition as possible, so I went about collecting my information. As Debbie had dealt with me so far, it was safe to assume she would be the person reviewing the complaint with me, and if that was true, I was screwed. However, easy on him. I vaguely remembered a section on complaints that was in my contract when I first signed with the company. I flicked through the contract and there was a part in complaint section that said I was contractually allowed to request a change of reviewer if I felt my allocated reviewer was biased. It was called an impartial overseer. I photocopied the page and highlighted that part. Then I messaged the people who had offered their support over Facebook and said basically, HR have asked to see me. Do any of you remember Jill insulting me to your face, and are you willing to write and sign something saying what you heard and when? Not everyone was willing to help, as Jill is somewhat feared in the office due to her befriending HR and management, but about 20 people were willing to help me. I guessed roughly when I'd asked Jill to stop previously. The 4 asks over the last few months, some timings were easy to guess as they'd happened on my break or when I'd first arrived at work. And I wrote them all down along with a rough time of when the lunchroom confrontation happened and a list of names of who was there for the lunchroom confrontation. I got to work slightly early the next morning. I went around to everyone who had messaged me, and most of them managed to give me a printed and signed letter. Some didn't manage to write one, but no big deal. This isn't exact words as there's 16 letters to sum up here, but the gist was, my name is, I work with Jill and OP. On date, at time, approximately, I spoke with Jill, during which she referred to OP as quoted insult. I felt this was inappropriate as it directly related to OP's appearance, and am willing to go on record further to establish that Jill has been discussing OP in the workplace in the same manner for 3 months now, causing me discomfort and creating what I feel is a hostile work environment. Signed. I wound up with about 16 letters, all from different people, and one of them was in the lunchroom for my conversation with Jill. Some had even bullet-pointed lists of everything Jill had said to them about me, or other people, as it turns out. Jill has issues with a lot of people's appearances. She apparently made comments about one coworker's weight, and something anti-Semitic about a different coworker's nose, all of which were put in these letters. There are about 45 people in the office, so while 16 wasn't a majority, it's still a decent amount. The letters weren't hugely long, most were only a paragraph, but they had all the necessary information. I was asked to come to HR at 10 a.m. I took the letters from my coworkers, the photocopy of the page in my contract, and my dates and times in a little folder with me. I got there and Debbie was the one overseeing the interview. She got up from her desk, ready to lead me into another room. I immediately turned to the other HR worker that was currently there and said, "So is my meeting with you then?" Debbie said, "No, you're with me." I replied that this wouldn't sit well with me as my contract states I have a right to an impartial overseer. And as I said this, I took the contract page out of my folder. Debbie read it, I wouldn't let her take the paper when there was a shredder so close by, and said she could be impartial. I replied that I really didn't mean to be a pain, but I had it on good authority that the person on the other end of this complaint is her friend, and my contract does say I'm allowed an impartial overseer. Debbie stomped off to get supervisor. Supervisor asks how I know she can't be impartial, and I tell him that I have it on good authority that the Jill, who was on the other end of this complaint, is a close friend of Debbie. He asked Debbie if this was true, to which she only replied, "I can be impartial." Supervisor took a deep breath, asked the other HR rep to come with him, and the 4 of us all went to review the complaint. I thanked them for being so accommodating. I was worried I'd annoyed them. Debbie took out the complaint and all 3 of them went through it with me. Debbie looked homicidal the whole time the interview was happening, and she had clearly anticipated firing me, or at least recommending me be fired. The interview went something like this. It took like over half an hour, and they kept asking me the same questions, but phrased different ways, so this is a really drastically condensed version. Question. You said outside that you think Jill reported you. Why is this? Answer. Jill has had an issue with me for about 3 months now. Question. Why didn't you come to us when you realized Jill had an issue? Answer. I had no issue with her. Question. What issue does Jill have with you? Answer. 4 years ago, a specialist identified potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I had surgery to remove my breast tissue, thereby removing the cells and the risk. After the surgery, I was left with huge scars on my chest. I went to a therapist for low self-esteem and depression. The therapist suggested a plastic surgeon, who suggested breast implants to cover my scars. All of this is in my medical history, which you have a copy of in my file, and my full permission to review. Jill found out about my breast implants, but didn't know about the cancer. Jill had a problem with my breast implants and decided to communicate this problem to our coworkers. Question. Why do you feel this is true? Answer. Here's 16 signed statements, all from different coworkers, all testifying that Jill told the entire office I'd had breast implants on the day she found out, and has since made comments about these implants frequently. They have quotes of what Jill said to them about it, and rough dates and times. Question, rough dates and times? Answer, no one knew this would be escalated to such an extent, so no one really took notes as to when it happened. Question, what event or events do you think directly led to this complaint of harassment? Answer, for me, harassment began when Jill told everyone about my breast implants without my consent, but as to the complaint placed against me, it would probably be what happened at about this time yesterday in the lunchroom. Jill made a comment about me being shallow while gesturing to my breast, and I replied by giving her an abridged version of my relevant medical history and ending with a comment about the importance of getting the full story. There are cameras in the lunchroom, so I'm sure you'll be able to find that conversation. I'll admit I could have handled the situation better, but after 3 months, I felt I had to put my foot down. Here's a list of names of people who were also present. There were 6 people at the table, including myself and Jill. One of these people is also in those letters and has written their accounts of the conversation and signed it. Question, had you had a conversation with Jill prior to this regarding her comments about you? Answer, several, spaced out over the last 3 months. Each time I communicated to her that I felt uncomfortable and upset with these comments she was making and would appreciate it if she were to stop. Question, to your knowledge, was Jill made aware of your former cancer at any point in this time? Answer, no, it wasn't mentioned in the conversation with my friend she overheard, and I didn't tell her because frankly, it's none of her business, and I did not feel the need to detail my medical history to a coworker in order to avoid further sexual harassment. Supervisor stands up and says, well, I think we're done here. He shakes my hand and sends me back to my desk, saying that I'd hear from them after they reviewed the evidence, letters, CCTV, medical history, and anything they had already, and made a decision on the case. I got back to my desk, pulled up my CV, and prepared to start the job search again. About an hour goes by, then the person who wrote the letter and was there for the lunchroom conversation gets called for a meeting with HR. They come back 10-ish minutes later. The other people who were also there for the lunchroom conversation get called one by one except Jill. All of them are gone for about 10 minutes, then come back. Find a coworker and say that HR wants to see them. Then the people who wrote letters but weren't there yesterday are also called one by one, and each are gone for about 10 minutes each, some longer, some shorter. By about 3:30, it looks like everyone who wrote a letter or was there in the lunchroom has been interviewed. Then finally, Jill gets called in. She's gone for about 30 minutes and comes back fuming. She glares at me while I work, but I ignore her. 4:30ish, Jill gets called into HR again. 5 p.m. rolls around, everyone is either leaving or getting ready to leave. When Jill storms back into the office, she glares at me the whole time she packs up her desk. She then starts telling anyone who will listen that I got her fired before shoving her way onto the lift. An email comes in from HR. My case is closed. See, I don't think this is vengeful at all. Like, you tolerated so much abuse from her, and you finally stood up for yourself, and she took it so personally. She couldn't take an ounce of what she gave. So she took it so personally, she went right to HR because she's thinking, oh, I've got a friend in HR. It's all going to be good. I'll just get rid of the problem. And you are smart. You got prepared. You contacted the people that you knew had the ability to help you. And even the people who weren't willing to write you letters, you gave their names so they could give the testimony because you knew if they wanted to keep their jobs, they would be honest when they were called and asked information about it. So I think you handled it professionally all the way through. I think you did a great job, and this worked out the way it needed to work out to be right. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/pro revenge. Guy quit his job thinking he became rich. Hey, new to Reddit, I thought I would post my story here. I work for a construction company and we do remodeling on homes. We have a rule here that we get to keep anything we find hidden behind the walls. We hired this guy, we really needed a worker badly, who was a total a-hole from day one. I've been working for this company for 5 years, and this guy has only been doing construction for 1 year after he got fired from his accounting job for getting a DUI. Anyways, he would always make fun of my clothes and my accent, and one day he went too far by telling my boss about my private Instagram account pics. He got on my phone and looked through my Instagram page and showed my boss pictures of me smoking weed. Little did he know that my boss is my friend from 8 years when we used to smoke together before we both quit. I was so mad that he violated my privacy that I made a plan to screw him over. He was the kind of guy who would always come in late and complain that trains or traffic is why he was always late. One day I overheard him saying that if he won the lottery, he would quit this job for not getting the respect he deserves. You have to earn your respect here. One day, I bought some fake gold coins online and I put them in a metal box I found at the antique store and waited for a chance to hide it in a wall. Luckily, I did not have to wait long. The day he found the coins, it seemed like it was his best day ever. First thing he did when he opened the box, he called my boss an effing loser, and he quit immediately on the spot, he said. F this place, I'm rich. LOL, little did he know was that was the best day of my life. After he quit, my boss told us that he was going to fire him anyways for always showing up late. I wish I could see the look on his face when he finds out the gold coins are fake. Best $40 I spent in my life. I apologize for my grammar. This just happened today, and my adrenaline is pumping hard. Thanks for reading. Edit, these houses are bought at auction. People don't live here, so everything is owned by the construction company. I mean, you get what you get. And I mean, if you're silly enough to just believe that these are truly, like, people deliberately put like skeletons and things inside of walls for people to find anymore. So the fact that you're working in construction, you find an old box with gold coins in it, and you just assume that these coins are going to make you rich, he got what he deserved. And I mean, even if you felt bad about it, you shouldn't, because he was getting fired anyway. So you just sped along the process. All right, that is 4 stories and us done for the day. If you are listening on podcast, leave a 5-star review if you like the content and share it with a friend to help the podcast grow. If you are watching on YouTube, leave a comment with your thoughts on the stories. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more, and share it with a friend to help the channel grow. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.